Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm your host, Connor King Roberts, with another episode of the Pivot Podcast, where we interview business leaders and entrepreneurs across the tech and marketing industries. Today, I'm excited to introduce a special guest, Daniel Santos, the co founder and CEO of Prepory. He launched the company in 2012. Daniel, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Connor. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, of course. And I know we spoke a little bit before we kicked things off, but if you wouldn't mind giving our listeners like a 2 to 3 minute breakdown of what you do and who you serve, that would be awesome, please.
Sure. So, like you said, my name's Daniel, and I'm the co founder and CEO of Prepory. We are a college admissions consultancy that helps undergraduate applicants and graduate applicants through every facet of the college admissions process.
Mhm.
We work with high school students and transfer students towards building the most compelling admissions profile and eventually college applications to their dream schools. Also, help graduate applicants, people who are maybe navigating the US or UK master's process or looking to get into business school or looking to apply to a PhD in astrophysics, for example, navigate their own graduate admissions processes. We've got a team of 75 plus of what I think is the best and brightest admissions experts. The way I typically describe our team is we simply cannot be outcared. We're more invested, more committed, and more expert than anyone in our space when it comes to college admissions counseling. And I'm really proud of the people who, work here and the people that we serve. And it's just a tiny bit on me and our firm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's extremely important because not every high school, not every student is going to have access to a college counselor. And it's a really overwhelming process, to navigate alone, or even if you have support, it's still overwhelming. So I think that's definitely super important. When did you find that there was a need for that? Was it back in 2012? How did you decide that this is what you're going to do and, this is the mission that you're going to take on?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I'm from a low income, low socioeconomic immigrant background. My parents, weren't born in this country, don't speak English, and I went to a small, non-competitive high school. Uh, and while it wasn't academically competitive, it was a really nurturing environment. We had good teachers that cared about us and school counselors that, really did the best that they could, but ultimately didn't have the sort of resources that you typically need when you're navigating the admissions process. So while I was, top 5% of my class, academically competitive, I couldn't even have aspired to go to the Ivy Leagues or to a really selective school. I simply didn't know that they existed. With that being said, my childhood best friend who went to that same, K through 12 low income charter school with me, um, met someone who had gone to Harvard through other spaces. And that person sort of saw something in him and was like, hey, you are hardworking and committed. Have you heard of these other schools? Have you heard of things like the Questbridge Scholarship? And that started to pique his interest in the admissions process. He became obsessed with it and eventually got admitted to University of Pennsylvania. It's an Ivy League school out in Philly. And when he got there, he was like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is unreal. There's so many kids from my community that are deserving and hardworking that could be here too if they knew how to navigate what's a super convoluted, non-intuitive process. It sort of became the birth story of Prepory. And together, he and I started providing sort of college admissions counseling services to students from our community
Mhm.
and schools like ours. And eventually, it scaled up to serve upwards of 14,000 students
Gosh.
across 46 different countries. And that's sort of where we are today.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's your co-founder is your childhood
Yeah.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Did you how were you able to scale to 46 different countries and, all 50 states as well? I'm sure that, took a lot of legwork and was a gradual process.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I think we're really proud of is that all of our growth has been organic. So we're bootstrapped and not VC backed. And we really scaled this organization sustainably and over time. It's something that didn't necessarily happen overnight. It's because we really wanted to be able to control the quality of our service. Ultimately, we're a B2C professional services business. And all we have is the trust that we build with our clients, the trust that we build with our families. Um, uh, to really allow us to grow and scale our business. And so initially it started by supporting a handful of students in our community. And little by little, year over year, that grew to a slightly larger community of students. And of course, really intelligent marketing bets that our team has put together. So we do really, really well with long form, um, our long tail, high intent content. And that
Mhm.
seems to be a way that we've really been able to scale our business strategically. And we've eventually landed some, pretty large partnerships that I think allowed our business to scale a bit faster once we started to work with some bigger folks.
Yeah, yeah, partnerships are definitely key. It can help you, blow up what seems like overnight, but obviously it's not overnight. It's taken a lot of work to get to that point. So now, how do students find you predominantly? Are they finding you? Is it through some of the marketing that you're doing? Is it through your partnerships, or is it a mixed bag of everything?
Yeah, good question. So primarily, it's they're finding us. So we're really
Mhm.
blessed that um, most of our clients or customers either come from word of mouth referrals. We've worked with a lot of siblings. So some families have three or four children. And we started working with the oldest sibling and then the younger sibling and then the third child and then the fourth child. We've even supported triplets.
Mhm.
But a lot of our traffic is, like I said, coming from organic search, long tail, high intent content. We've also sort of dabbled in other spaces. So, of course, we've explored performance marketing through things like Meta Ad to host lead generation events like webinars. So,
Yeah.
what host webinars like how to be a competitive BSMD applicant. We had about 1,000 registrants for that webinar. It's a really niche topic and it requires a lot of preparation, and there's just a lot of interest around that space.
Certainly. And in the beginning, you spoke about how you basically do end to end. You can help someone that's in high school looking to navigate the college experience and just apply to, get into a good school. But you can also help people that are seeking their PhD or more, higher education. So with that, did you have to, hire specific personnel to be able to handle those different like conversations and like work in different departments? Or I guess, what does that look like?
Sure, that's a good question. So, in terms of the background of our team and how they support maybe folks who are applying to different programs,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, there's sort of specializations across those teams in certain ways.
Yeah.
Generally, our team is made up of former admissions officers from places like Purdue, UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, Columbia, NYU, tons of other schools across the US. And they're oftentimes working with students who are applying to undergraduate as maybe a high school or as a transfer student. In addition to that, we also have tons of advanced degree holders on our team. Folks who maybe got their bachelor's and master's degree in education from Harvard or a master's degree in education from Johns Hopkins. We've got lots of PhD holding candidates. So we have two program directors on our staff. One of them's got a PhD from in civic education and curriculum and instruction from UW Madison, and another one from U Rochester. And so, in terms of the folks who are supporting our graduate applicants, every one of those team members hold a PhD themselves.
Oh my
They
gosh.
not only went through the process as an applicant, but also the really grueling process of being a student, of defending your dissertation. And so that's how we're able to support those folks
Yeah.
through this process.
Yeah. That's incredible. It definitely helps a ton when somebody has gone through the process, done it themselves, because, they're not an outsider advising. They've really been on ground zero and done it themselves. So I think that's extremely valuable. You've already touched on more than a few, I would say, but if you had to define what your superpower is or your unique skill or insight that sets you apart in your space, what would you say that is?
Sort of, and you're saying specifically our brands, correct?
Yeah, your brand, or I guess even something that you as co-founder and CEO do a little bit differently. But yeah, we can talk about the company and something that's unique about that.
Yeah. I think specifically for our brand, it's first that we are really looking to develop sincere and honest relationships with every client that we serve. But me, I think as an individual and as a leader on our team, I'm extremely people driven,
Mhm.
and I think that attracts other people driven individuals.
Yeah.
And while I'm driven, when I say people driven, I'm driven by our customers and our team members. Our counselors are driven by their peers or their colleagues and their students. And I think we've got a really, sense of commitment towards those promises that we make to those families.
Yeah.
And I think, again, developing those deep relationships. And one thing that we tend to hear from families over and over is that because we're able to develop sincere relationships and because we empower and encourage our applicants to be themselves and to sort of exist outside the box in this process versus trying to check that box of, well, in order to get into Princeton, I need to do X, Y, and Z, but rather really be yourself. I think oftentimes you will get feedback like, I am so proud that I got into Brown, not in spite of who I am, but rather because of it.
Yeah.
And really, that's authenticity, self awareness, socio emotional intelligence, those skills that we're looking to build with students when we start supporting them. And that I think is so integral to our brand are things that admissions officers are extremely attracted to in this process that I think a lot of other firms or a lot of other counselors are not giving sufficient attention to.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would agree. I think authenticity is something that is very attractive when someone is living in their full truth and unapologetically who they are, of course, within reason, having that good insight and being self-aware is also just as important. So I also think that's a superpower that you pull out of the students that you work with. That's really awesome. You've touched on this a little bit, but a question I'm always curious about is how important or powerful has networking been for you and the company's success over the years?
That is a good question. Um, I think relationships that we have, maybe that we had prior to the organization, uh, were really important. And then also the relationships that we ultimately build with our clients are really important too. I think that everything that we have, ultimately, what we're selling is trust, right? It's not like I'm selling a shirt or a hat or even a tech product that I could demo for you. Really selling is trust that we are giving to families. Hey, give us the thing that most matters to you, your child and their future, and allow us to collaborate with them to turn that into the best version of what it can be.
Mhm.
Right. And I think to that end, relationships and sort of those networks have been important. I think in a more tangible way, early on when we launched this organization, we sort of the set of services that we provided and still provide to this day were not exclusively working one on one with students. We actually started by working with entire schools to supplement their existing services, primarily low income Title I schools where students couldn't afford to work with a consultant like us,
Mhm.
but their high school could sort of foot the bill of a version of that service that will allow them to realize their goals. And a few years ago, with one of our school partners, we helped that school district get their first Ivy League admit in 27 years. And this is a super low income kid. This is about six family members in a one bedroom apartment. That sort of life experience would have probably not been possible if their high school and school district didn't choose to invest in a service like ours.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're opening up doors for people, which is extremely rewarding and I'm sure very fulfilling. How many, different school partners do you have? If even if it's like a ballpark number, I'm just curious.
Sure. Good question. So, school partners is a smaller aspect of our business. We've got about 15 or so school partners, hopefully more. We're in the midst of finalizing some deals in the next few months here.
Okay, awesome. And then, of course, I know not one size fits all. Every student's different. Everyone has their own unique story. Um, how long do you typically work with students? I'm sure it can range from, maybe like 6 months to an extended period of time. But yeah, what does that look like?
Sure. Good question. So, we start working with families as early as ninth grade.
Hmm.
So there are many students in our program who started with us when they were freshmen
Hmm.
and went with us all the way through high school graduation. But of course, we do start with families later in this process too. I would say the largest majority of our clients probably start with us towards the beginning of 11th grade.
Hmm. Gotcha. Beginning of 11th grade. And if you're able to share on this, that's great. If not, no worries. Is it like paid on a semester basis, or do you customize it to each person?
Great question. So the sort of fee structure is based on when you come to Prepory, right? So if you came to Prepory in at the very beginning of 11th grade versus halfway in through 11th grade, there's just less time, right? The window of time between when you started Prepory and when early application or early decision applications are due is slightly smaller when you start later. And so the version of the program that you'll enroll in is going to be slightly smaller.
Got it.
And for families who are beginning with us freshman year, regardless of when you start in freshman year, you are enrolling in a 12-month program that
Hmm.
will follow you for the next 12 months of your high school experience and adapt to sort of what's happening throughout that time. And as you move through high school, you'll enroll in other preparatory programs, or rather re-enroll in other preparatory programs through high school graduation. That's actually something that we do that's really unlike most players in our space.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. That brings another question to mind. Are there any competitors that come to mind that are doing maybe not exactly what you're doing, but something similar? Or are you guys pretty much standing out right now in your space?
Uh, I mean, I think to answer your latter question, I would say that we're absolutely standing out in our
Hmm.
space, especially in terms of how our fee structure and how our programs are structured. But we also have tons of competitors.
Hmm.
I think the space has been getting slightly more saturated over time. But yeah, we've got a lot of competitors.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then, over your career and since you co-founded the company, I'm sure there's been a bunch of up and downs. What is one challenge that comes to mind, or maybe just a challenging period? How'd you overcome that, and maybe a lesson that you took away from that experience?
Um, That's a great question. I think I'll go with something that's pretty recent and
Oh yeah,
maybe current events. I
yeah,
think in the last few months, maybe last three-ish months, with what's going on with the current administration around higher education and particularly international students, about 25 or so percent of our clients come from international backgrounds or outside of the U.S. And to that end, there's been a little bit of maybe fear, anxiety, uncertainty around the admissions process, not just for international families, but even for domestic families, seeing so much maybe scary news around higher education um, has been a bit scary. And I think the way that we've really addressed this is by having sometimes hard and difficult conversations internally
sure.
across departments. So across our marketing team, across our sales team, across our programming team, to ensure that we're all sort of cohesively aligned on a singular message and that we are, prioritizing our current families to let them know that, uh, we are going to do everything within our power to ensure that they'll navigate their process strategically and sort of assuaging any sort of uncertainty or insecurity that they might have around this process
Yeah,
and to prospective families through how we communicate in different marketing campaigns. Um, and maybe changes that we're making to our programming to really meet a need that is coming from particularly international families or families who might be a bit uncertain about what's going on right now.
certainly. Yeah, I think that's vital, and I'm really glad that you have those internal conversations with your team because that's where it all starts to have those difficult, gut level conversations about what's going on and then how are you going to handle it? How are you going to relay that message to your students to let them know that they're seen, they're heard, and you're here to help ease the anxiety and you're aware of what's going on. I think that's super, super important. Looking forward, in a perfect world, if you could wave a magic wand, where would you see Prepery in 2 years? In 2 years from now?
All right, cool. 2 years. That's really soon.
Yeah.
Um, I think right now we are really focused on uh, two things as it relates to growth. Which is first, sort of continuing to scale. I think we dominate particular sections of the market really, really well. And we're looking to both double and triple down on the spaces that we tend to do really well on, and then expand to other spaces. So, really, we're hyper focused on growth, hyper focused on serving more students than we did years past and trying tons of different marketing things. Actually, one thing that we launched that we're crazy proud of is that we built The only AI, or excuse me, AI powered college admissions agent
Mm,
built by a firm who actually works with students.
nice.
There's some other AI admissions agents out there, but they were not built by firms or by companies who primarily do student facing work. They were
Yeah.
built by AI companies, or maybe companies who a tiny bit a portion of what they do is actually counsel students.
Mm,
This is built using our proprietary curriculum, 10,000 plus hours of recorded student advising sessions, and sort of retesting and retesting and QAing our AI agent to be the most sort of expert and informed AI tool in our space that we're really proud of. And that's sort of one strategic growth item that we have to allow us to scale a bit faster.
yeah, certainly. And that's great that you fed it, all the information in your proprietary like knowledge and database. So I'm sure the idea there is to have a 24/7 agent that's accessible to these students to be able to bounce any questions off of and be able to get like detailed feedback at essentially any hour of the day.
Yeah, that's exactly the intention. Though we wholeheartedly believe that this will never be a replacement for our team of advisors. Ultimately, this AI agent is a really cool and powerful tool at getting you informed, but it does not know you as an individual. It can't react to sort of the niche aspects of what makes you you. It probably doesn't know that you really like sewing and that sewing is a thing that maybe you don't think is actually all that cool or important, but will be really intriguing to an admissions committee. And we
Yeah,
can use that sort of thorough line of uh, needles and fabric as a way to maybe contextualize your personality in
yeah.
a really creative way in your personal statement.
Yeah, wow, that's a great point. And use it in a college essay, I'm sure, and spice it up and get to know the student even more through one of some like their hobbies.
Yeah.
Um, what advice would you give to someone looking to follow in your footsteps, whether that's as an entrepreneur, consultant, or industry expert?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think what I would say to someone that was sort of looking to follow in our footsteps, my footsteps, excuse me, maybe in a way that's entrepreneurial,
Hmm.
is to really develop trust
Hmm.
with the people who you're going to work with. Um, whether that be a co-founder, whether that maybe be your first hire, that early trust that you develop, and not only, initially, but in a broader way throughout your organization, your team of directors, who you're working most closely with, is so important. Ultimately, you are one person, and as much as you try, and trust me, I've tried to be involved across the entire organization, there are things and decisions that you will not be able to make. And
Hmm.
you have to be able to blindly trust that the leaders that you've selected to surround you and to lead other people on your team are going to do what's best for the team members, the clients, and the business. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, uh, you oftentimes maybe assume that those three things are different from each other, right? What's best for your team member, what might be best for your client, and what might be best for your business might be three different things. And I really disagree with that premise. I think the right answer to that is the thing that is the best for those three people.
Hmm.
And I usually use that framing when training new directors or training young managers, to really try to find common ground across those three stakeholder groups.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. That's a very good approach, I would say. Are you doing the training for most of the people that you onboard for managerial roles?
I will say I work really closely with our team of directors, and they have other team members who work more closely with them. But with our team of, our marketing director, our program director, our learning and development director, those team members I work super closely with.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Awesome. So now that we talked shop for a little bit, there is just a little game that I like to play with everyone on the show, where I just ask you a few quick questions, like about yourself, and then whatever comes to mind, will be your answer. If something doesn't come to mind, we can just go ahead and skip it. But first one is, do you prefer coffee or tea?
Coffee. I love caffeine, but I also more so prefer sugar-free Red Bull or Celsius.
Yeah, Celsius is really get you going. Like those things are no joke. I wish I had one actually. Cats or dogs?
Neither.
Okay, yeah. Morning person or night owl?
I stay up late, but I'm a morning person.
Gotcha. I wish I was that way. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Flying. I really am interested in like efficiency, and if I could just fly through a place and not have to drive there, be
Yeah,
way more efficient.
it would be a lot more efficient. It would also be a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie or streaming series?
Ooh. Attack on Titan.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
it's incredible. The best piece of media that I think has ever existed.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm just getting into it, so I'll
Okay.
keep going with it.
It's
Uh,
dark, but it's worth it.
I like dark stuff, so that sounds perfect. Favorite book, if one comes to mind?
Sure. I recently read, or rather, I guess I audiobooked, a book by Percival Everett. It's called James, and I really enjoyed it. Um, and so that's my answer.
Yeah, awesome. Favorite saying or quotes that you think about?
Yeah, it's actually a team member of mine coined this, and I should start paying him royalties every time I say this. But it's there's a difference between being nice and kind, and it's better to be kind.
Being nice and kind, it's better to be kind. Wow, that is good. And and he just came up with that?
Yeah, he actually has a lot of those phrases. I think that's his superpower.
Yeah.
And every time I say it, I usually, quote like James would say, and I use that in a lot of contexts. And it essentially means that sometimes you have to have the hard conversation. And while
Hmm.
it's difficult and maybe scary, the right thing to do is to do the kind thing and tell them,
Yeah.
hey, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but
Yeah.
this is what you need to hear, or some version of that.
Totally. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense now. That's an important distinction because a nice person would probably shy away from that because they don't want to be mean. They want to be nice. Wow, that's
Exactly.
really great. Shout out James was his name?
Yep, James.
Yep. Shout out James. What's one bucket list item you've already accomplished?
Yeah, a bucket list item.
Or just like a goal that you had that
Yeah.
you nailed?
I mean, I'm not sure it was a bucket list item, but um, we were named Forbes 30 under 30, and that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's a great one. And then last question for you. What's one goal that you haven't accomplished yet but plan to?
I think of something really specific. Um, yeah, maybe scaling to upwards of eight figures
Hmm.
is a goal of ours, and haven't accomplished it just yet, but we will soon.
Yeah, I would say you're in the right trajectory, so that's incredible. And Daniel, for any of our viewers out there that would like to connect, collaborate, or even work with you, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you or the company?
Sure. Uh, Best way is by giving our office a call or by sending an email. Uh, you can, find our phone number on our website, and you can send an email to admin@prepory.com, and the right person of our team will direct you, whether that be to maybe our marketing director, our PR manager, or our school partnerships person, whoever is sort of the right person for you to speak to.
Awesome. Cool. And just to make it easy on everyone, I'll include the contact information in the episode notes below this episode. Otherwise, thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on the podcast today. It's been awesome chatting with you.
All right. Awesome, Connor. It was great to speak to you too, and thank you for today.
Of course, anytime. We'll see you next time, folks. Take care.